In the heart of Enugu City, where red earth roads meet busy markets and the smell of suya fills the evening air, there lived a man named Chukwuemeka, but everyone called him Emeka. Emeka was not always the man you are about to hear about. There was a time when he was everything a man could dream of being. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile so bright it could light up a dark room. His skin was smooth like polished wood, and his eyes were sharp and full of fire. Women turned their heads when he walked past. Men respected him. He had a good job as a civil engineer. He owned a house in a clean part of Enugu. He had a wife named Adaize, beautiful, soft-spoken. At least that is what everyone thought. And he had 2 children, a boy of 7 and a girl of 5. His life was full. Then one rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. Emeka was driving home from a construction site when a trailer lost control on the expressway and crashed into his car. The accident was terrible. People said those who saw it could not sleep for days. Emeka was pulled out of the wreckage barely breathing. He spent 3 months in the hospital. When he finally woke up properly, the doctors gave him news that hit harder than the accident itself. "Mr. Emeka," the doctor said carefully, "the damage to your eyes is permanent. You will not see again. And your legs, the nerves were badly affected. You may never walk on your own." Emeka lay on that hospital bed and wept like a child. He called for Adaize. She came once or twice. Then her visits became fewer. Then they stopped. What Emeka did not know, lying helpless in that hospital bed, was that Adaize had already made her plans. By the time Emeka was discharged and brought home, he discovered the house was nearly empty. His car was gone. His savings account wiped. Adaize had sold the furniture, collected the rent from a small property he owned, and signed documents she had no right to sign. She had packed everything and moved out, taking the children with her to a man she had been seeing quietly before the accident. She left Emeka with nothing, not even a note. His family heard about his condition, the blindness, the damaged legs, the lost money. One by one, they disappeared. His brothers said they had their own problems. His cousins stopped picking his calls. His mother was old and could do little. People are kind when you are doing well. When you fall, you discover who truly loves you. Emeka was evicted from the house when he could no longer pay rent. He was carried, helpless, and left at an uncompleted building at the edge of the neighborhood. Unplastered walls, no windows, a concrete floor. That became his home. He would have died there, forgotten by the world, if not for a boy named Tobena. Tobena was 11 years old, small for his age, with torn slippers, and a serious face that made him look older than he was. He lived nearby with his grandmother, who sold firewood. He had no father. His mother had traveled to Lagos years ago and never came back. Tobena understood what it meant to be alone. One morning, Tobena passed the uncompleted building and heard a sound. He stopped. He went inside and found Emeka lying on the bare floor, thin as a shadow, lips cracked from thirst, mumbling to himself. The boy did not run. He fetched water. He came back the next day, and the day after that. Soon, Tobena was taking Emeka out every morning, guiding his hand, walking him slowly through the streets of Enugu. They would sit near the market or by the bus stop. Emeka would call out for help. People would sometimes give food, sometimes money, sometimes nothing, sometimes insults. "Look at this useless man," some would say. "Lazy beggar." Emeka would say nothing. He had learnt that silence was safer than speaking when the world had already decided who you were. On good days, they ate. On bad days, Tobena would divide the small portion of food he had been given and push half of it into Emeka's hand without saying a word. Emeka always knew when Tobena was going hungry for his sake. He would say, "Tobena, eat your food." And Tobena would say, "I am not hungry, uncle." He was always hungry. This was their life for 15 years. 15 long years. Emeka aged in that uncompleted building. His beard grew long and grey at the edges. His body became thin and worn. But inside, something never died. He still prayed every morning. He still talked to God in the dark. He still told Tobena stories about the buildings he had once designed, about engineering, about life. Tobena listened to every word and stored them like treasure. Then came the fateful day. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Tobena and Emeka had guided Emeka to their usual spot near the old GRE road, a quiet stretch where sometimes wealthy people passed. They had barely eaten that day. Emeka sat on the ground, his white walking stick across his knees, his head slightly bowed. A black Mercedes slowed. An old man stepped out. His name was Chief Raymond Obiora. He was in his late 70s, well-dressed, with the quiet confidence of a man who had built his wealth slowly and carefully. He was in Enugu for a conference and was heading back to his hotel. Something made him stop when he saw Emeka. Maybe it was the way Emeka sat, not with the slouch of a broken man, but with a strange dignity, like someone who had simply been placed in the wrong story. Chief Obiora walked over. He crouched, which surprised his driver, because rich men in Nigeria do not usually crouch on roadsides. "My friend," he said quietly, "what happened to you?" And Emeka told him. Not quickly, not dramatically. He told him slowly, like a man who tells a story he has carried for too long. The accident, the hospital, Adaize, the empty house, the uncompleted building, Tobena, 15 years. Obiora listened without interrupting. When Emeka finished, the old man sat quietly for a moment. Then he said, "Stand up, you are coming with me." Emeka thought he had misheard. "And the boy," he added, looking at Tobena, "he comes too." Within 2 weeks, Obiora had arranged everything. Emeka and Tobena were on a flight to India, to one of the best hospitals in Chennai that specialized in exactly these kinds of cases: eye injuries, nerve damage, reconstructive surgery. The doctors examined Emeka thoroughly. They said the blindness could be reversed. The damage to his legs could be significantly repaired with surgery and with prosthetics, artificial legs, strong and well-fitted, that would allow him to stand and walk again.
The surgeries took several months. Tobena stayed close throughout, learning, watching, asking questions from the nurses and doctors. The hospital staff loved the boy. They said he had the curiosity of someone who was meant to do something important in medicine. Then came the morning the bandages were removed from Emeka's eyes. The doctor said, "Mr. Emeka, open your eyes slowly." Light came first, blinding white light, then shapes, then colors, then the face of a young doctor standing over him. Then Tobena's face, that small, serious face, now taller and older than when they arrived, watching him with tears running quietly down his cheeks. Emeka saw light for the first time in 15 years. He covered his face with both hands and wept so deeply that the room went silent. When they fitted his prosthetic legs and helped him stand for the first time, he stood straight, tall again, the way he used to stand on construction sites when he was young. The physiotherapist said she had never seen a patient work so hard in rehabilitation. Every day, Emeka pushed himself. He was not going to waste this second chance. When he returned to Nigeria, even Chief Obiora, who had seen his transformation gradually, was moved. Emeka was handsome again. He was tall again. He carried himself with a calm strength that came not from arrogance, but from having survived things that would have destroyed most men. He was 51 years old, but looked distinguished, the kind of man whose face tells a story worth listening to. Chief Obiora looked at him and thought of his company. Raymond Obiora Holdings was not a small business. It had interests in construction, real estate, and logistics across the Southeast. The chief had built it from nothing over 40 years, but he was old now and he had no children. His wife had died years ago. His nephews and cousins circled the company like they were already waiting for him to die. Reckless young men who spent money but had no idea how to grow it. He watched Emeka. He saw a civil engineer who once built things with his own hands, a man who had been stripped of everything and had not become bitter or criminal, a man who understood suffering and therefore understood people, a man with a reason to build something that lasts. After 6 months of working together, Chief Obiora called Emeka into his office, sat him down and said simply, "I want you to take over this company when I am gone, and I want to start handing it to you now while I am still here to teach you." Emeka opened his mouth and closed it again. "Sir, don't argue with an old man," Chief Obiora said. The news spread the way news always spreads in Nigerian cities, first in whispers, then in shouts. That beggar from the uncompleted building in Enugu, the blind man with bad legs, he is now running Raymond Obiora Holdings. He lives in a mansion in GRA. He drives a Prado. He traveled abroad. He came back looking like a new person. People who had mocked him felt the words turn to sand in their mouths. His brothers who had abandoned him started calling. Old friends who had changed their route to avoid him suddenly remembered his phone number. His cousins sent messages through people too ashamed to reach out directly. And Ada is ahead. Of course Ada is ahead. The man she had left for dead in an uncompleted building, the man she had robbed and abandoned, was now wealthy, healthy, and powerful. The man she ran to had since grown tired of her. She had struggled for years, and now she came. She dressed well, she spoke softly, she cried real tears. "Emeka," when she finally stood before him, "I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. The children need their father. I need you." The children, now grown, 22 and 20 years old, stood awkwardly beside her, not sure what to feel about the father they barely remembered and the stories their mother had told them for years. Emeka looked at her for a long time without speaking. Inside him, 15 years of hunger roared, 15 years of sleeping on concrete, 15 years of darkness. He wanted to say things that could not be taken back. He wanted to use his money and his lawyers to make sure she felt even a fraction of what she had made him feel. He had already spoken to the best lawyers in Enugu about the divorce and full custody of the children. It was Chief Obiora who stopped him. The old man sat with him one evening on the veranda, both of them looking at the lights of Enugu spreading out below the hill. "Emeka," he said, "I have lived a long life. I have watched men get their revenge. I have never once seen it bring them peace. Not once." Emeka was quiet. "That woman wronged you. God saw it. You don't need to become the punishment. Leave vengeance to God. He does not forget, and he is far more just than any lawyer or any judge. But the children need a father who shows them what grace looks like, not what anger looks like. They have seen enough of the wrong kind of living. Show them another way." Emeka sat with those words for a long time. He did divorce Adaeze. He was clear and firm about that. That chapter was closed. But he did not pursue destruction. He took joint custody of his children, invested in their education and their future, and let the law handle what needed to be handled without letting hatred handle him. He forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because he refused to let her have that piece of him too. And Tobena, that small boy with torn slippers, who gave half his food to a blind man without being asked, Tobena did not miss his reward. Chief Obiora had grown deeply fond of him during the time in India. He sponsored his full education. The boy who had listened to Emeka talk about engineering and construction for 15 years studied medicine in Chennai and returned to Nigeria a qualified doctor. Emeka made sure he had everything he needed to set up a clinic in Enugu. Tobena became one of the most respected young doctors in the state. People would come to him and see a young man full of patience and kindness, someone who never made a sick person feel small, and they would not know why he was that way. But Emeka knew. He had watched a child divide one meal into 2 portions and call himself not hungry. That child had already known how to be a doctor before he ever opened a textbook. Years later, Emeka would sit on that same veranda with Chief Obiora, and sometimes when it was quiet, he would think about that uncompleted building. The concrete floor, the darkness, the sound of Tobena's small footsteps coming in the morning. He never pretended those years did not happen. He never erased them from his story, because he understood something now that he had not understood before. The accident did not destroy him. The darkness did not kill him. The hunger did not finish him. In the city of Enugu, where red earth roads meet busy markets and the smell of suya fills the evening air, people still talk about Emeka. Not because he became rich, but because of how he became rich and what he chose to do and not do when he got there.